Good morning, everyone. So, in previous lecture, we have just completed the first chapter of this subject, that is computational botany. So, in this video lecture, we'll be going to discuss the second chapter, that is sample and sampling. So, let's get started. So, the content of this chapter is the definition of sampling unit, then sample and population, then the types of sampling. There are two types of sampling, that is random sampling and non-random sampling. So random sampling is further divided into, that is with replicate random sampling, then without replicate random sampling, then systematic sampling and stratified sampling. Then non-random sampling, that is purpose and quota sampling. So in a random sampling, the with replicate random sampling, in which the selected sample have again chance of selection at second time. Then in without replicate sampling, the once we select the individual sample, then that sample have does not opportunity to select again. In systematic sampling, the first selection of individual sample is random, and then the further selection of sample is systematic. And in a stratified sampling, the population is again divided into small populations, and then the selection of sample is done. Then non-random sampling is purposive and quota sampling. So again, this is a simple type of non-random sampling, that is in purpose sampling, the selection of sample is according to our purpose. And in quota sampling, it is dependent on the quota. Then we have next point, that is a need of randomness. Okay, so during this sampling, there is a need of a randomness, so that each and every individual unit of population have a chance of get selected while sampling. Then next point, that is achieving a randomness. So we can achieve this random with the help of different methods, that is lottery method or use of random number table. With the help of these two methods, we can achieve the randomness. And the last one, that is merit and limitations of sampling. So in the last, we can see the merits and limitations of sampling. So this is the content of this chapter. So let's start one by one. So first one, that is a population. We have already seen the definition of this term, that is population, and as well as sample. So population is defined as totality of individual of a given species in given times and in a given area. So very simple definition of population, that is a totality of individual of a given species in a given time and in a given area. Example, that is a total number of students in a class, then a total number of books in a library, then total number of houses in a village. These are different examples of population. The sample are the number of individuals are selected from population, or we can also say that the small proportion of population or the representative of whole population is called as sample. The sample is a representation of whole population character. Okay, so very simple definitions, that is a population and a sample. So let's see the sampling a unit. Okay, so single element or group of element subject to selection of sample is known as sampling unit. Okay, so here we have three groups of sample. They now in these three groups, each and every individual sample represents the sampling unit. Okay, so this is a sampling unit. Each and every individual sample represents the sampling unit. Now let's see the types of sampling. So we have two types of sampling, that is random sampling and non-random sampling. Then random sampling is further divided into with replicate random sampling, then without replicate random sampling, then systematic random sampling and stratified random sampling. So let's see the definition of random sampling. The random sampling is nothing but the selection of individual from population, that is randomly. Such sampling is known as random sampling. So when we select the sample from population by randomly, then this sampling is known as random sampling. The example of random sampling is selection of a seed from the petri plate. So when we select the seed from petri plate, the selection is based on the random selection. So this is random sampling. So let's see the types. The first one is with replicate random sampling. So the sample is select randomly in this type of sampling. Okay. So if we select the individual member of a population at first time, then that member has opportunity to select at the time of second selection. As I earlier mentioned that in this type, once we select the individual member, that individual member has opportunity to again select at the second type of at the second time and at the second selection. So here we can also see that we have a population that is white white, red red, then black black, and blue blue. So when we select the sample, uh, in the first round of selection we have a red sample, then again we have blue sample, and again we have a red sample. So this red one is selected twice while sampling, so it has a second opportunity to select again. So this is a very simple and simple type of random sampling, that is a replicate random sampling. That's why it is called as a replicate, because the sample have again chance to select in the second round. So the second type of random sampling is without a replicate. So in this case, it is exact opposite to that of replicate sampling. So the sampling done randomly again. In this type of sampling, if we select the individual member at first time, then the same individual member should not consider in the second time during sampling. So it's exactly opposite to that of replicate a sampling. In this case, once we select the sample, then this individual sample should not consider in the second time during sampling. So here we can again say see that the population, we have population again red red, blue blue, white white, and black black. So when we select the sample, we have individual member of a sample that is red, blue, and white. These are different from each other and not repeated in the sample. So this is without a replicate random sampling. Then we have third type of random sampling, that is systematic sampling. So this is a random sampling type again. In this type of sampling, first unit selected randomly, as I earlier mentioned that the first unit selected randomly, and then rest of sample will be select by design hypothesis, that is known as systematic sampling. Okay, so let's see the example of systematic sampling. If we want to take sample 25 from population 5000. Okay, so when we if we want to select the 25 samples from the population of 5000 population, then let's see how we can select the 25 samples from this population. So now we have a total number of population, that is 5000, which is denoted as a capital N. Then we have sample, the number of sample that we want to select, that is yes is equal to 25. And how can we calculate? We can simply calculate the sample interval, okay, which is denoted as a k. So how can we calculate the sample interval? Simply we can uh, divide the total number of population by the sample that we want to select. So we have 5000 total population, which is divided by 25, that is the sample that we want to select. So is the sample interval is 200. so that sampling interval is 200, that give sample is 200, then 400, 600, 800, 1000, 1200, and the last one is a 5000. So this is how we can select the sample in systematic sampling. Okay, so the first sample is selected at 200 position of this population, then the second sample is selected at 400 position, then third one is 600 position. So the sample is selected systematically, that's why it is called as a systematic sampling. Then we have another example of the systematic sampling. So if we want to select the 50 sample from 500 students, then how would you select the sample from population by systematic method? So again we have to remember this formula, that is k is equal to capital N divided by S, which is used in calculating the systematic sampling, systematic random sampling. So again we have total number of population, that is 500. Again we have the sample number, that is 50 sample. And how can we calculate the sample from population by systematic method? So by calculating k, so k again is equal to N divided by S, that is 500 divided by 50 is equal to 10. So our sample that we want to select will be at the position of 10, 20, then 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and to up to the 500. So this is how we can select the sample systematically in random sampling. So I hope this will helps you. So I just stop here. So till then keep watching and keep supporting. Thank you.